Hello and welcome back to our continuing adventures on the Let's Defend platform. We're taking a short break from challenges and we're going to take a look at the practice events underneath the Security Analyst Path. And so I, for whatever reason, stumbled upon this SOC282 Phishing Alert, Deceptive Mail Detected, EventID 257, type exchange. For May 13th, 2024, 09:22 a.m. And so we are looking at what looks to be a actual email from a free at coffee shoop. So 3 O's as opposed to 2.com. Apparently to Felix at Let's Defend.io. It was allowed. Subject was free coffee voucher. I mean, who doesn't want free coffee? So the typical aspect is with something like this, we're going to go and we're going to jump over to the email security on the left-hand side, be it as to whether or not if this would be like in the real world, Exchange portal, 365, Google Workspaces, Workplaces, Workspaces, I think. And we're going to take a look. I've done a little bit of pre-gaming on this particular aspect, so I want to find the email and we might want to run through and take a couple of these pieces of information and run them through the threat intel just as basically an additional data point. And I've already done that. The domain doesn't seem to generate anything, but the IP address does. In the same time frame that we're looking at, it's been designated as phishing, or at least tagged as phishing. But like with anything threat intel, you take it partially with a grain of salt, depending. Okay, and then if we go digging through email, we will find that yes, it is indeed there. Well, you can actually download the emails now. Well, all right. That is apparently extremely new, and I am all for it. Although I may want to find the appropriate place to save it. And I realize, yes, that's just terrible content of me picking the thing. But anyways, so again, we've confirmed it's the same one, May 13th, 2024, 09:22, from the free at coffeeshoop.com to Felix. That it was allowed. Dear Felix, start your day off with a complimentary cup of coffee at our cafe. Just click the link to redeem your voucher. Best regards, not signed with anything. Hurry, expires soon. And the redeem now takes us to a Amazon AWS.com, I'm assuming bucket that would contain free.coffee.zip. So the very first thing is, if this was, and depending as to how your SOC would be set up, you would pull this thing down and run it through a bunch of sandboxes, preferably internal, private. Again, it would depend on the organization. Or if your organization had enterprise virus total, you'd go and do the private sandboxing, just to see as to what this would shake out. Realistically, since we're here, I just did a search. It's in virus total, the URL. 9 out of 96 engines detected as malware. Well, I guess I should technically correct that. 8 out of 96 detected as malware. 1 detects it as suspicious. And now, mind you, I haven't downloaded this thing, but we're basically letting virus total do a portion of this for us. We go in underneath details, we'll get the body hash, we run that through. That gives us the actual zip file as opposed to the URL. Now we got 12 out of 65 engines picking this thing up as something bad. And it looks like generic Trojan. But if we take a look at detail, no relations. We can see bundled files, points us to coffee.exe, and we have the hash. So if we open up that hash, we see, it shows us DLL host.exe, but 58 out of 72 detections seems to stick with either jalapeno or async rat. All the way through. Oh, yep, okay. So other names, coffee.exe, coffee space 2.exe, client.bin. And if we take a look underneath relations to see as to what this might sit there and try to actually communicate out to, we get a bunch of IP addresses, which we might come back to. But there's no apparent domains. Yep, and then associations, we get async rat malware. So we'll let that do its thing. So, next spot, we've got threat intel that seems to pick that this is phishing. It looks odd considering the fact that the email itself is from a weird looking sender domain, coffeeshoop.com as opposed to coffeeshop.com. Michigan cherry, good stuff. Anyways, so let's go take a look at Felix's endpoint. So, okay, wait, Felix? So, in case you didn't catch it, the email was addressed to Felix. So, just on a hunch, go and search Felix in the endpoint security section, and we get their particular host. Confirm that the host name is indeed Felix, primary user is Felix, 1 + 1 = 2. So if we go through and take a look, we'll extend this out. Okay, so we're looking at web surfing going on May 13th. Looks like your generic stuff. And then we get down to the bottom at 12:59. So, what, 2-3 hours after the email was delivered? We get a hit to that free-coffee.zip. Okay, so we're fairly certain they downloaded it. If we take a look at the process history, we dig through, we see a bunch of normal stuff. Chrome, Explorer, background windows, items. And so quickly, what would you think that we would be looking for in this particular aspect? Typically, we'd be looking for coffee.exe as what was denoted from the pull down. But the other aspect to keep in mind is that it also could show up as DLL host. It could show up as coffee space 2 or a client.bin, more than likely client.exe. So we'll keep looking and we'll see as to whether or not if we find anything. And just like that, we see coffee.exe. Just before that, we've got Explorer. So maybe extracting. But effectively it kicks, oh no, they manually browse to it. That's why the parent process would be Explorer, because they're actually using Explorer to look at the local file system. So it looks like they have indeed kicked it off. Hash starting in CD903. CD903, how about ending in Delta 334? Delta 334, okay. And we have execution. And then we get a command window that comes up. And now we got stuff that looks like recon. Because immediately we get a command window, we get system info coming up, we get host name being run again from that command. So we're going to gather info on your system. We're going to get what's the name of the system. They are using WMIC to get local disk, caption, description, provider name. Now that it wouldn't surprise me as to whether or not if it would be to try to find out if it would be like a virtual hard drive type of aspect. So is this being run inside of a VM as part of a anti-debugging or anti-security tool check? And we get net, and they're displaying the users. They're doing task list to go through and pop out what slash SVC I think is for services. Pull an IP config since we want all the IP information in regards to the host that we're running on. We're pulling the routes. And then we just have Google Updater going. So yeah, lots of recon activity. In terminal, we see more or less the same of what we just covered. So once coffee.exe was run, we get the command.exe, where it's going through doing system info, host name, WMIC, net user, task list, SVC, ipconfig all, root, print. So we have execution, we have the badness all the way through. So when did we technically have 1300? So let's see, that's localhost 169.254, 169.254, I think is the, hey, we can't get a IP address assigned. So we have a couple of different things to sit there and take a look at. We have more IPs that we can run through threat intel and see what shakes out. So the question might be, okay, why would we have interest in doing this? Well, if one particular sample of this async rat is not going to go back to a domain, but is instead sending the data to an IP address, you would think that you would want to see as to whether or not if anything else starts trying to touch that IP address at the same time, or thereafter. Maybe Felix does a bad thing and he copies that coffee.exe and maybe he shoots it internally by email or Slack or Teams or whatever the case. Dumps it on the USB drive and takes it to his friend Mark in accounting and be like, hey, can you run this and tell me, do you get a voucher for coffee? You would think that people wouldn't do that. Trust me, I've seen it. It happens. You have to remember, we look at all this stuff as terrible. But, maybe there's, some uniqueness to us in terms of, some genetic quirk, whatever it is. We're semi-unique. We see this stuff and immediately the short hairs go straight up. But from all this, we now have C2 async rat. So now that we have that, let's just dump the IP address. Into the search and we'll see what we get. Destination address. Okay, so we have two things. Two people tried to reach out to it, or at least 2 times. But it looks like it's the same host. 172.16.20.151. 172.16.20.151. Okay, so this just seems to be isolated too. Yep, so there's the repeat. So we've done due diligence, we've checked, we've ensured that it looks like, at least for this particular instance, assuming that there isn't any other C2 infrastructure here, we found our 2 points. So at least from this particular strain, everything else like that, we don't apparently have any sort of any other execution, at least reaching back to that IP address. So since we've gone through, we've done a search for all time. Okay, we can safely say, okay, Felix, sorry man, but you're gonna have to take some remedial training. We're gonna have to nuke your machine from orbit and all that good stuff. That being said, we've done, we've looked, we've got more than enough data in the logs to confidently say, you done screwed up there, buddy. So we're gonna go ahead and put the machine into containment. I mean, technically it's too late. I'm sure there's already data that's gone out the door. But so this would be followed up with, okay, Felix, we're going to invalidate, assuming it's a Microsoft environment, we're going to invalidate all your active O365 sessions. We're going to scramble your password. We're going to take your workstation from you. We're going to nuke it from orbit. Hopefully you've got and done, kept all your data on a network share or something backed up by OneDrive? Hopefully. I suppose since it's contained, you could use a USB or something else that you can scan beforehand to make sure. Or even better yet, assuming you turn off BitLocker, mount the hard drive in like a Linux system and just copy the data off that you might need by that point. Okay, so I think we've got everything we need here. So let's go ahead and take ownership of this. Yes, I'm sure. Then, of course, I'll have to go back through and check the course, seeing as how you're supposed to have done the How to Investigate a SIEM Alert course. And I don't know if I've done that. I mean, realistically, I should. I mean, I'd hate to be giving everybody bad data, but how to investigate? Oh, dear Lord, I haven't even done that. Oh no, I'm a charlatan and a fraud. Okay. Enough screwing around. Let's go through and let's do our casework. SMTP address, everything else like that. And you know what I didn't do? I did not grab a copy of this stuff. So let's go back to practice. Just gonna grab all this good stuff. I'm just gonna dump it in a notepad and we'll come back to that. Okay, now I got it. Now let's go through and do some, put in some work. And then the other aspect is we're going to want that IP address as async rat C2. And that is 37.120.233.226. Okay, so, and in that same vein, let's say you don't have, you're back in your 9 to 5. You don't really have threat intel. So, like with a lot of the different stuff, there's plenty of stuff that's open source that you can check. I mean, I've been relying heavily in this utilizing VirusTotal, so you can get what all the different AV engines tend to think in regards. So like if we go search, we dump in the IP address, and we run that sucker. We give it a second to think. It comes back 5 out of 94. All in regards to malware. Oh, okay, again, I correct myself. No, 5 malware, 1 suspicious. And as we're going through all this, we can see Google search results, any.run, at some point had something, and this came back as Quasar. And also apparently we get medium write-ups of this particular case of the deceptive email detected. If we take a look at relations, is bad, is all bad. So if we go back to our actual exe, we go to relations, is that IP address in here? 37.120, yeah, with a 5 out of 94. So we can kind of do the same thing just by going through and taking a look. But so we could compare the info in the endpoint security logs to what shows up for this particular sample. Outside of VirusTotal, you've got things like Talos Intelligence, what was OTX, so Alien Vaults data, which you can still get to by otx.alienvault.com, even though now it's like Blue Labs or something. IBM X-Force Exchange, even though however you feel about IBM. From that particular aspect, Twitter, then other obviously online sandboxes, so any.run, recorded futures, triage, and then the one that's owned by CrowdStrike, hybrid analysis. Plenty of information out there. So you do searches before you'd start plugging this stuff in. Again, depending as to your organization's SOP. You know, do you, as opposed to submitting live samples to publicly available data sources. Okay, so let's kick this off since we actually have all this stuff. Okay, when was it sent? The May 13th, 2024, 9:22 a.m. What's the email's SMTP address? 103.80.134.63. What is the sender address? free@coffeeshoop.com. Recipient address, Felix at letsdefend.io. Is the mail content suspicious? Yes, because it's directing us to download a zip file as opposed to directing us to, you would think, like freecoffee.coffeeshoop.com or something to that effect. Are there any attachments? Yes. Well, I guess technically no in that regard because it's the link that goes to it, unless it is actually literally also attached to the email. I'm assuming just for convenience sake that you just add it to that particular section. I mean, it lists itself as free-coffee.zip as an attachment. Contains attachment or URL, yes. And then we analyze said attachment or URL. Okay, and here's all the rest of the stuff. URL house, URL scan, but the big ones, any run, VirusTotal, hybrid analysis. Definitely malicious. Was it delivered? Yes, it was. Device action was allowed. Delete it. Defender's like, yeah, no. Yeah. Oh, I can't even bring it through here. It's still trying to block it. Oh, very nice. But regardless, okay. Goodbye. I mean, again, it's kind of late considering the fact that they've already run it, but okay, that's done. Was it opened? Oh, it was most definitely opened. Contain it. We've already done that. And now we add all of our happy little artifacts. So we are going to start with the IP address. Of the async rat C2. We're going to go on and we'll include the SMTP address. At least as it was tagged. Again, denoting that it's IP address. We will add the sender domain. Is that in here? Or, yeah, email domain. So we're going to do two things here. We're going to do this, but we're going to get rid of the free. We're going to add another one. We're going to do email sender. What else do we have? MD5 that we need to supply for the malware. Async rat, which we will get by going to the virus total. And we've got the whole thing, but that's a SHA-256. So, but if we go to details, we get the MD5. And then also by the same token, depending as to what platforms you have in the SOC, you might be able to, like with a CrowdStrike or Sentinel-1, be able to go through and do a search across your environment for an MD5 or a SHA-256. I'm not entirely sure as to whether or not if the traditional AVs have that particular aspect in terms of anything going through. I'm sure you could add a rule, but it may just basically, okay, all the endpoints need to get scanned. Okay, so what else do we have? Got the MD5, we got the SMTP and the C2 IP addresses. We got the sender. I guess the other aspect that we could do is we do have the URL that it was sent to. There we go. Enter comments. Felix was phished with the offer of free coffee, downloaded and executed coffee.exe, which appears to be async rat. C2 IP comms have been detected along with system recon events tied to async rat execution. And be like, okay, what does all that mean? Okay, Felix got phished with the lure for free coffee. He downloaded and ran the free-coffee.zip, which gave him coffee.exe, which he ran. So we've got via both the endpoint security and log management, the communications to the async rat C2 IP address, that 37.120.233.226. And then all those recon events gathering all the system info. So all the stuff that shows up in a terminal in history. So system info, host name, net user. The only thing missing really is like, who am I? But but that would be recon. They're trying to understand the scope of the system that they're in. So host is contained, needs nuke and pave, or reimage, or swap out, whatever the case would be. Again, your organization's terminology will apply. And all active sessions of Felix's account killed with passwords rotated. So, okay, we're adding to the note. We've taken action. Host is contained. Phish email removed. System needs nuke and pave. And all active sessions of Felix's account killed with passwords rotated. Man, it's been so long since I've done this. Okay, so we've taken action. It is a true positive. We'll just dump the same note that we put in there before. And we get confetti. And a one-day streak. And yet again, I forgot to mute the dang site. So I just got that blasted in my ears. And we get all that stuff. Okay, let's open up the security report. That it detected, yes. Adversaries, yes. It was allowed. Free vouchers. Is there anything in here that I am missing? Could be. We got the same info. Is it suspicious? Yes. I got a copy of the email. Where it pulls down to. They did it. Okay, they went a little bit further. They went to any.run. And then they verified it was delivered. They popped it out. Did anybody open it? And they've got the confirmed. Gets the same C2 IP address. And then they talk about the recon done through terminal history that shows up there. They do the containment. Lessons learned. It is important to carefully inspect malicious, suspicious emails, especially those that contain links or attachments. Yes, very much so. Phishing emails can be disguised to look like legitimate messages from reputable companies, but there are ways to identify and avoid them. Remediation actions. Educate employees in regards to phishing scams. Reset any compromised user credentials. Implement strong security policy. Second part's not going to do a whole hell of a lot since they allowed it right in. Yeah, and then the other aspect too. Better email security controls. DKIM SPF. Everything mapped from MITRE. Artifacts, yeah. So it's nice to see I can still sit there and work phishing cases, at least on the platform. Everything in a single pane of glass is nice, but so okay, there we go. That has been Deceptive Mail Detected, or SOC 282, EventID 257. With all that being said, I will see everybody in the next video.